Okay, so I think I may be falling into a little bit of a reading slump. So, oh my goodness. So, I thought it would be fun to maybe talk about how to get out of a reading slump. Because it happens to me sometimes, and I usually do a pretty good job of getting myself out of a reading slump. So, maybe here are some methods you could try. They usually work for me, and they might work for you. So, we'll jump right in to our first method. So, my first method is changing the format of what I'm reading. So, if I'm reading a physical book, I'll switch to my Kindle. If I've been reading on my Kindle a lot, I'll switch to a physical book. I'm not much of an audiobook reader. I just don't really prefer them. But if you do like audiobooks, maybe try switching to an audiobook. That might help. Maybe I'll try it sometime. I don't usually like it. I tend to get distracted really easily, but I have considered listening to an audiobook while I read. I think maybe that could help me. I also hate the idea of paying for an audiobook. I think that might be part of it, but Spotify has started adding audiobooks, so maybe it is time for me to attempt it. But sometimes just changing the format in which I'm reading my book will help me kind of get into a different mindset a little bit. So I try to switch up a lot and go back and forth. So like if I've read 3 physical books in a row, I tell myself, okay, maybe it's time to switch over to my Kindle for a little bit, read like 1 or 2 books on my Kindle so that I'm not getting burnt out on physical books. If I have been obsessing over my Kindle a little bit too much and I've read like 5 or 6 books on my Kindle in a row, I tell myself, okay, we need to go to my bookshelf and pick a book off my bookshelf for the first time in like 3 weeks. So sometimes just changing the format of the book can help to kind of reset your brain a little bit. So that works for me sometimes. Maybe that will work for you. Try it, see if that helps. These dogs are wild. Yeah, change the format, see if that helps you. Sometimes just changing the font on your Kindle can help. I also like to switch up the genre I'm reading a lot, so that can sometimes help. Just switch it up, change it up a little bit. If I find that I'm just reading too long of stories, I'll switch to like reading some novellas, or like I'll just read something. This sounds so embarrassing. I'll just read something on like Wattpad. Like just changing it up a little bit does help. Switch it up, try something new. Sometimes that'll help. Just give your brain a little factory reset. Anything to pick you up, put you somewhere different. Reset, try again. Sometimes that'll help you kind of come out of it. Now we'll move on. The next one, we'll see if that one will also help get you out of this reading slump. So my second method of getting out of a reading slump is to read a book that I have read before. Sometimes it won't matter what book it is, but most of the time I try to read a book that I know I already love. So like I'll go back to my 5 stars and I'll read one that I know I love. I have some books that I have read like 10 plus times. I know I love them. I know that I will love them again. So I just keep going back and rereading them. And usually going back and reading them again gets me excited again and gets me happy to read again, and that helps me get out of whatever reading slump that I'm in. So try to go back to your classic 5-star reads and reread them. Read a book that you know you love and let yourself be happy and excited about reading again. It's not always about like powering through your TBR. let yourself DNF some books. Let yourself come back to a book. You don't always have to finish every single book that you read. You don't always have to finish it right away. You can put it down and come back to it. I used to force myself to get through every single book, and it would take me forever. So I had to start letting myself kind of put it down and try again later. And I also would try to, like, read a book one time and then not go back to it. And that would also not give me the best experience. So I do go back to the books that I know I love. And that has helped me immensely with not getting into as many reading slumps as I used to. What? So that really helps me. Maybe that would help you. Just read books that you know you love. Even if that means going back to a book that you loved in your childhood. Like, who cares if you read Twilight again, even though you haven't read it since middle school? So what? Who cares if you reread a book that you loved when you were, like, 12? So what? Who cares? If it makes you happy and it gets you excited to read again, that's all that really matters in the end. So do what makes you happy and do what makes you excited to read. That's all I can really say about that one. So I think I only really have one more. So we'll talk about that one and then we'll move on. Okay, so my last one that's really advice is sometimes what I like to do to get out of a reading slump is I like to go back through and annotate a book, which sounds really odd, but there are some books that I have read and I know I want to annotate them. I don't ever really seriously annotate a book the first time I read it. When I annotate a book, I like for them to be very, like, thoughtful, critical annotations and not really just, oh, I underlined this because I thought it was cute. Those are nice, but when I annotate a book, I like for it to be, like, very thoughtful and purposeful, and that's just a personal thing. So when I get into a book slump, I like to go back to a book that I know I felt very strongly about, and I knew that I wanted to read it again to annotate it. And I'll go back through and I'll let myself be very critical of it, and I will make notes in it. I will color code things. I will do my underlining and everything. And that will kind of allow me to read in a different way. So that will kind of allow me to change it up a little bit and put a different perspective on it. So it's kind of like using a different part of my brain in a way. I know you're not really using a different part of your brain, but kind of. But just allowing myself to read in a different way sometimes will kind of get me out of that slump a little bit. And I know that not everybody annotates the same way. There are a lot of people that like to annotate just to make the book look cute. Some people just like aesthetic annotations, and that's perfectly fine. If that is how you annotate, try that. Maybe that'll get you out of a slump. Go through and make your cute little annotations and decorate your book. That could possibly help you get out of your slump. Just go through and read a book for fun and make it cute and do your cute little annotations. That will honestly make reading that book fun, and that might help you. But being able to go through and really be critical about the writing and think through what I'm reading will sometimes help me to step up my reading just a little bit. I've always kind of read at a different level than the other people my age. By the time I was in, like, I think 4th grade, I was reading at almost a college level. So I was, like, you know, really above my peers in reading level, and by the time I got to high school, I already had, like, a very critical way of reading and analyzing literature, so it's something that I still continue to practice, even though I don't have an English degree, I regret every day that I didn't get an English degree. I got a psych degree, and I love my psych degree. I never regret getting my psych degree, but sometimes I do wish I would have gotten an English degree. I think it would be so fun to have an English degree, and sometimes I consider going back for an English degree. But I don't know what I would do with it. I just think it would be fun to take English classes. And I do have fun just kind of analyzing literature myself at home. I just think it's fun. But also going and, like, discussing and analyzing literature with other people can sometimes help me kind of get out of that slump a little bit. So even just, like, go on social media and talk about books with people. That could honestly probably help too. Just do something with your books that doesn't involve just mindlessly reading them. That is my third little piece of advice. So those are really the three big ones that I can think of that help me. So if they help you, you're welcome. But if there is anything that you've noticed that helps you, I would love to hear it, so please put it in the comments. I would love to hear any other things that I could do to either prevent a reading slump or get out of a reading slump, because when I get a reading slump, it hits so hard, and I hate being in a reading slump. I love to read, and I'm a very avid and fast reader, so I despise reading slumps. But that's really all the advice that I can think of. So, oh my goodness, these puppies. Yeah, that's really all I have. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!